Welcome to The Explainer. I am so thrilled you're joining us today because, wow, we have a genuinely chilling mystery to unpack. We're diving headfirst into the terrifying lore of a village that has found itself suddenly trapped in a 400-year-old nightmare. We're talking about ancient curses, lost princesses, and a desperate search for a legendary healing nectar that just goes horribly, horribly wrong. If you're fascinated by deep folklore and complex mysteries, you are in the exact right place. So, let's not waste any time, let's just dive right into this.
They roam the village at night. If they see anyone, they take them away. Listen, this isn't just some spooky campfire story. This is the immediate waking reality for the village Mukia and his people. The sheer panic in the air there is totally palpable, because this is not an empty threat. On the very first night our protagonists arrive, two locals, Sampat and Kapta, are abducted. And what were they doing? They were literally just sitting outside playing cards. No provocation, zero warning, just gone.
So, what exactly are we dealing with here? Let's treat this like we're opening up a monster codex. What are the Nishir Molo? Well, according to the local lore, they're a group of 4 entities draped in these heavy, dark brown robes. They roam the darkness carrying a literal coffin on their shoulders. But the absolute most crucial point, the rule you cannot break under any circumstances, is about their glowing red eyes. If you make eye contact with them, or honestly, even if they just spot you looking their way, that's it. You're cursed. You are taken. This one terrifying rule has forced the entire village to basically board themselves up behind locked doors every single night.
But you know what's absolutely wild? The Nishir Molo aren't even the only threat out there. And I think this just brilliantly illustrates the layered danger of this place. Before the village even realizes the Nishir Molo have woken up, our 3 main characters, Anuj, Ishita, and Meghna, are out exploring the old palace at 2 in the morning. Suddenly a door creaks open and this figure in a black cloak steps out, holding this bizarre, super unsettling doll. It's just breathing heavily and then sprints right at them. They literally only escape by throwing themselves out of a palace window. So right from the jump, we're looking at multiple intersecting layers of absolute terror.
Which brings us to the obvious question, why on earth are Ishita and Meghna even hanging around this terrifying place? Well, the expectation was simple enough. They traveled from the city, searching for the Mrityunjay Amrit, this legendary nectar rumored to cure literally the deadliest diseases. They thought they were on a straightforward medical rescue mission. But then, reality hits. They've stumbled headfirst into a cursed village, and they're being hunted by ancient entities carrying a coffin. Talk about a massive bait and switch.
Section 1. The 400-year-old mystery, the origin of the nectar. So how did this village get so incredibly cursed, and where does this magical nectar actually come from? To understand the present nightmare, we've got to dig into the past.
Let's map this out chronologically, because it is fascinating. Back in the year 1600, a massive epidemic struck the kingdom. Young, old, everyone was falling violently ill and dying. The king was desperate. 4 years into this horrific plague, in 1604, the princess mysteriously vanishes without a trace. The king searches everywhere, but she's just gone. Then, exactly 1 year and 1 month later, boom, she just reappears. She gives absolutely zero explanation for where she was, but she brings back a single magical seed. That seed gets planted, and it eventually grows into the massive, sprawling banyan tree that stands in the center of the village today.
And that tree? It's the source of the Mrityunjay Amrit. But, of course, there's a huge catch when it comes to harvesting it. Yes, it cures deadly diseases, and yes, it comes straight from that magical 400-year-old tree, but the nectar doesn't just flow on demand. It only drips for a very short window on Purnamashi, the night of the full moon, and on Ekadashi. And this specific rule explains exactly why Ishita and Meghna can't just pack up their bags and bolt. If they want that nectar, they are quite literally trapped in this deadly village until the full moon. The lore itself is holding them hostage.
Now here's where the lore gets intensely personal and really eerie. When Anuj finally takes Ishita and Meghna out to the fields to see this massive banyan tree, Meghna goes into absolute shock. Why? Because she actually recognizes it. She has never set foot in this village before in her life, yet this exact giant banyan tree has been the centerpiece of her recurring nightmares. She has some deep, subconscious connection to this ancient magical thing, and it raises a massive red flag. Like, why is a city girl dreaming about a 400-year-old magical tree?
Section 2. The Doomed Ritual. The village fights back. While Meghna is wrestling with her terrifying dreams, the village elders decide enough is enough. They can't just hide in their homes forever. They have to fight back.
Let's actually break down this defense strategy step by step. The village brings in a junior tantric who preps a powerful ritual out in the village square to stop the Nishir Molo. Step 1, he gathers his dark materials, very specific stuff, a skull, a human bone, a fire pit, and 4 incense sticks to purify the air. Step 2, dead of night, fierce winds blowing, he begins this intense chanting. But then, step 3, the heavy, echoing footsteps of the 4 Nishir Molo start ringing out through the village. The ritual hasn't stopped them, it has actively attracted them. Which leads to a completely disastrous step 4.
As those footsteps get closer, the local pujari, the priest who is actually helping set up the ritual, just completely panics and makes a run for his temple. But he doesn't make it. In this incredibly chilling off-screen moment, the villagers hiding inside their homes just hear the heavy wooden coffin creak open, and then they hear the pujari scream. The Nishir Molo ambushed and took him right outside his own sanctuary. The stakes just went through the roof. But what about the tantric who actually performed the ritual? Well, when the villagers finally dare to step out into the square after things quiet down, they find a truly gruesome scene. The tantric didn't just die, his end was deeply unnatural. He's found frozen solid in place, transformed entirely into a statue made of mud. His eyes and mouth are violently torn open in this silent scream. And right as the villagers are processing what they're looking at, his mud body slowly just vanishes into thin air. It is a brutal illustration of the unstoppable supernatural power of the Nishir Molo. Human magic just doesn't stand a chance here.
Which brings us to Section 3, Unsolved Mysteries. The Awakening. This failed ritual changes the game entirely. The village is left completely defenseless, the entities are stronger than ever, and we've got some massive unsolved mysteries on our hands.
Meanwhile, miles away from the village, deep inside a secluded cave, a senior tantric, who happens to be the master of the guy who was just turned into mud, suddenly snaps his eyes open. He's been deep in a meditative trance, but he physically feels the violent death of his disciple. He realizes in that instant that the Nishir Molo have evolved into something way too powerful for ordinary defenses. He just says, "We must go there ourselves, or there will be a catastrophe." And boom, the arrival of this powerful new figure sets up an incredible clash.
But the most crucial piece of the puzzle brings us right back to our protagonist, Meghna. That exact same night, she falls asleep and gets pulled into another incredibly vivid dream. Only this time, she's not just looking at the banyan tree. She's actually dreaming that she is dressed in ancient royal clothing, wandering through a desolate wilderness, literally as a princess. And then suddenly, out of the emptiness behind her, a mysterious hand reaches out and grabs her shoulder, and she wakes up absolutely screaming in the dark.
And that leaves us with the ultimate, lingering question. What on earth is Meghna's connection to all of this? We know a princess vanished in the wilderness back in 1604 and brought back the seed of the Mithranjay tree. Now, a modern girl from the city is dreaming that she is that exact princess. Like, is she a reincarnation? Is the curse specifically calling out to her? And how does the coffin carried by the Nishir Molo actually tie into the origins of that healing nectar? The way this lore connects the ancient past with the terrifying present is just masterful. That is all we have for today's explainer, but I definitely encourage you to keep questioning the lore because as we've seen, in this village, the past never really stays buried. Thank you so much for hanging out with me, and I'll catch you next time.